Okay, awesome. Hi, Bill. Thanks for having us here.
Hi, Casey. How are you?
Good, we're good here. A lot
Excellent.
of our potential students have a lot of questions about our curriculum, our career services, what they can expect from our program, as well as some outcomes they can expect from leaving our program. And since you're on the operations side, I think you'd be really well suited to answer these questions, especially because you work directly with our instructors and software engineers. So I have a few that we can run through if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, far away.
I think the first one a lot of our potential students really ask about is just kind of the technologies you learn during our program, specifically our full-time web development or software engineering course.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can talk a little bit about what students really should be looking for in a program. Might be really helpful as they do their research. So philosophically, I think what they really want to be looking for is a program that's going to teach them very deeply, which is super important because you want to learn in depth. You don't want to have a thin skimming of knowledge across numerous technologies. You want to really learn deeply around those technologies that are most in demand. The depth of knowledge that you learn is really important for interviews, of course, as anyone could imagine, and also really important because any job that you go to, if you look at a posting online, you'll see that every single company is going to require you to learn something new, and oftentimes a whole lot of things new. And if you don't have depth of knowledge, you've learned like 3 stacks, 4 stacks, whatever it is, and you haven't learned deeply, then you can kind of be in trouble on the job in picking up new technologies and concepts. So that's number one, probably would be make sure you're learning the right things and learning them in depth, and don't fall prey to the shiny object syndrome. Probably begins and ends, by the way, with JavaScript.
Great. I kind of along that same note is with technologies and languages that you learn during a program, specifically for our program, or maybe just programs in general in boot camps. What's kind of the proficiency that they can expect coming out of a boot camp in general, and maybe even LearningFuze?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a really good question. We get that one a lot is, at what level will I be at the end of the program? So another word of caution, be very careful if you're getting promises like I'm going to be a senior level engineer. Really anything from a mid-level to a senior, if you really haven't had professional software engineering experience before, that's probably a bit of an outsized promise most of the time. The reason that is that senior engineers have a lot of experience. They've worked on projects, they've probably led people, they've led projects, and they've solved a lot of different problems in a commercial world, and even complicated problems. So that just literally takes time and experience to get to that level. Simply learning technologies without experience, those two together, is going to be super, super difficult for anybody to be a mid-level to a senior level engineer. So be really careful of those kind of promises. You can probably expect coming out of any program of any quality that you're going to be anywhere from a junior to a mid-level engineer as far as technologies that you learn are concerned. So that's probably a pretty important topic also. Just make sure that the promises are realistic.
Great. And that's kind of on a similar vein to that we get a lot of questions, I think, asked about as far as software engineering as an industry and as a career. It's not just about what you know, it's about have you had the experience in building these projects and working together with people, as you were kind of talking about, that qualifies you to be a senior or a mid-level engineer, not necessarily that you just know that these languages.
Yeah, and learning the depth of knowledge required, practical depth of knowledge, really just takes experience also, by the way. Running into different types of problems in a dev environment, super important.
Great. Okay. And I think on another similar note is just kind of the job search. I know a lot of students just either coming into a boot camp in general or LearningFuze are wondering, what does it look like once I leave? And I think that kind of along the same lines that they're asking, what do we offer as a program, and what should I look out for in boot camps and what they're offering?
Oh man, yeah, we get that question a lot. That's probably the most popular question is, what is the job search going to look like? Well, the first thing I would talk about is the job search is a very personal experience. It really depends on the variables or qualities that each individual possess that can be completely different than the person they're standing next to with this similar technical ability, because half of the equation has nothing to do with the technical skills. Just the same as any other industry. They're going to hire you based on your work experience, your professional experience, ability to communicate, conduct an interview, education level. The list goes on the soft skills side of the equation. And really the technical side is the other 50%. Now, the price of entry to do the job, of course, is to have the technical skills. but oftentimes the hiring decision is based on the soft skills. So that's really, really important. The other thing we hear a lot about as it pertains to the job search is, the 6-figure promises that you'll hear a lot about there. Yes, it's possible to make 6 figures coming out of a junior to mid-level engineer, but it's going to depend on the market in many cases. If you're trying to get a job in the middle of the country where the cost of living is far, far less, the likelihood of making the 6 figures or the higher end of the scale, like you would make in the Bay Area, for instance, New York, is probably not going to happen. Very unlikely. Now, those lines are being blurred because of remote work. Geographic lines are being blurred. But the other thing that I really encourage students to be careful of are outside promises about how much money can be made. That also, how much money you're going to make is dependent on those personal factors that we talked about. So it's just really, really important to understand that, to make sure you know what you're getting into. And I think one of the most important things that for students to possess is a passion for engineering, because if you have that, everything else falls into place.
Great. I think that's a perfect answer to what a lot of our applicants and students are looking for as far as the job search. That was very helpful. Just kind of a last question, I think, for you would be on best way to learn both inside a program and maybe even preparing for a program and after a program. So there's kind of 3 sections that they kind of ask about as far, what should I be doing and what's the way I should be learning and looking for?
Yeah, so another really good question is it's really very, very important, whether before the program or after the program, that you actually have your hands on the keyboard and that you're solving problems, doing exercises, and even building projects. Building projects is super important, especially in the program, because that's how you bring all of the concepts together in a practical way to really build something. And building things is where the knowledge and skill is really coalesced. So that's super, super important. And we have students sometimes that say, I've been watching videos, I've been watching others code, and that's fine. You can get an understanding of coding, but you're not going to get the skills, because this is all about skill acquisition. So make sure before the program, whatever tutorial you choose, that it's going to really require you to get your hands on the keyboard and solve problems and build things. And any program that you choose, that you're doing exercises and building projects in a very well curated, well thought out way during the course of that program. That's also really important.
Awesome. Great advice. And just kind of to wrap this up, I think a great way to end this would be to answer a question that we have a lot of applicants asking as far as maybe job climate right now and having a role as a software engineer right now. Is that an industry that they can see expanding a lot in the future, specifically with the rise of artificial intelligence? Will they be needed, and kind of what purpose do they serve going forward in the tech industry?
Yeah, that's a great question for our instructors, especially our senior level instructors, but I can certainly kind of channel their knowledge and experience. Is that yes, I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, software engineering is an integral part of the economy, and so is the internet and everything involved with that. So yeah, it's not going anywhere, any place, anytime soon. It's really, really important part of the economy. All economies go through ebb and flow, and all industries go through a bit of ebb and flow. And that's certainly what we're experiencing right now. What we're seeing, though, in a couple of different articles that we've come across, is that the vast majority of what's going on in the marketplace right now around layoffs is really happening with larger tech companies. But software engineering and the needs of software engineering are across every single industry. Every single industry needs web sites. Every single industry needs applications to run what they're doing. There's just so much more involved with technology today in software engineering than just the tech industry. The other thing is that 80% of the marketplace when it comes to the software engineering world are small to middle-sized companies on top of that. And those companies still are in dire need of hiring because they have goals they need to meet when they're at that stage of development. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now. But again, it goes back to, do you have a passion for engineering? If so, there's going to be a job out there for you if you're willing to put in the work and really gain the skills that are required.
Great. I think that's a great answer. Thanks once again for answering all these questions that our applicants have. We really appreciate it. It just helps provide more clarity to some of our applicants on, hey, I want someone to actually, with words answer some of these concerns I have or questions about the marketplace and the industry of boot camps as a whole. So thanks again.
Yeah, I know we say this a lot, but they might want to consider attending an info session where we go over this over the course of an hour with others that are asking questions and really get pretty deep into what's going on with the industry, how they should be doing your research, things like that. So I guess that's a bit of a plug, but nonetheless, we not only answer questions about LearningFuze in there, we answer questions about the industry, about being a software engineer and things like that. All right, that's all I have. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, no problem. Not a plug at all. I think it's a great resource for people. It's certainly the best way to learn more about our programs. And I think people get a lot out of them and get a lot of questions that they don't even realize they've had answered. So it's a really good way to kind of figure out, okay, what don't I know? And then maybe answer those questions. But thanks again. And we'll be seeing you around.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.